introducing me to say, hey, you got to be an athlete. You got to be able to skate. You got to be able to move. The other thing he did, again, just incredible. He made me poke check everything. Anytime somebody came in close, he'd tell me you got to poke check them. And the old saying was, you got to give him Jake the Snake. Now I'm talking back 1972. You got to be Jake the Snake. So guys coming in and stick handling around your feet back then, I mean, you had no chance of stopping them. You couldn't go down because that's the other thing is they didn't want goalies to flop back in the 70s or in the 80s. You were considered a flopper. So you had to stay on your feet with a shooter all around the crease. It's like a nightmare. So the only real way to be super successful was to poke check guys. So he constantly had me skating and using my stick. And those were the two skills that allowed me to climb the ladder. And I had to do that. And I had that coach. I had that same coach till I was 13 years old. The same guys. I was always the youngest kid on the team. I was 2 years younger than everybody else. So I was always playing over my head, per se. But he was an incredible coach. And everybody says it, that if you picked any one of those guys, they say he was an incredible coach. So he was instrumental in the success of all these players that came out of Duluth over this period of time in this little area. He was a massive reason why so many guys were successful.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Hockey Journey Podcast, episode number 144, the Robb Stauber Hockey Journey, presented to you by onlinehockeytraining.com. I'm your host, Coach Lance Pedlick. If you're new here, please make sure you subscribe so you won't miss out on any future episodes. Before we take a trip into Coach Lance's past, stroll around Canal Park with one of Duluth, Minnesota's finest, a former teammate of mine, the best goalie I've played in front of ever, and begin this conversation? If you want to learn more about me, my hockey experiences, what I know, and most importantly, how I've been helping hockey players get really good with a stick and puck, just head on over to onlinehockeytraining.com and gain instant access to my 10-part video series where I'll show you everything. Consider it my gift to you. Lastly, if you live in Minnesota or are visiting the state of hockey sometime soon and want to schedule an in-person off-ice stick skills lesson, I'd love to have the opportunity to show you my little world. Go to sweethockeycoach.com, that's sweethockeycoach.com, and watch the video on the homepage for instructions. Thanks, and I look forward to working with you sometime soon. Hi everyone, this is going to be an awesome day as my son Rem is sitting in on this podcast, and I'm pumped to visit with a former teammate from the University of Minnesota, goaltender Robb Stauber. I'm not kidding you when I say he was the most talented goalie I played in front of. Maybe I think that of him because he saved my butt probably hundreds of times stemming from a bad read or coughed up the puck for a breakaway. Mr. Stauber was always there for me. Heck, by my sophomore year, when I'd make a bonehead play, I'd hardly backcheck because I knew Robb was there. He's the first goalie to ever win the Hobey Baker Award, made it to the top of the hockey mountain as a player with NHL stops in LA and Buffalo, and equally impressive coaching and entrepreneurial business endeavors. We have a lot to talk about, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome Robb Stauber to the show. Mr. Stauber, welcome to the Hockey Journey Podcast.
Thanks, Lance. Thanks for those kind words. But let's be honest. Many people didn't call me a goalie, but a frustrated forward, and you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. We got Remmer here too. Rem, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Rob. We have to fact check that before we started. Is that true, Rob? You were the first goalie to win the Hobey Baker?
I don't think your dad's probably sharper than most people think. I think he's sharp as a tack on this one.
Okay, so you're deflecting it. Okay. Weird brag. No, that's amazing. That's super cool.
Yeah, no, it was, I was part of it. I'm not kidding you. It was every game. It was like a painter. You just give him a blank canvas and, he makes a masterpiece. So anyways, it's not about me talking the whole time. I wanted you guys, mostly Rob, but how we started here, Mr. Stauber, is, and by the way, I had our former teammate and coaching duo, Brett Strout, on an earlier podcast. He was a great guest, so I'm looking forward to hearing your stories as well. But let's go back to the beginning. Tell everyone, where'd you grow up? What was your childhood like? And then kind of your rise in hockey, and we'll just kind of start there.
Oh, thanks, Lance. Rem, great to be on with you guys today. It's always great to reminisce. Um, Hockey's a great game. It brings a lot of people together, and I like so many, in their 50s, late 50s now, grew up playing outdoor hockey. I had five brothers. What else were we going to do in Duluth, Minnesota in the winter, right?
Right.
Um, find the outdoor ice, ball hockey games in the driveway, anything we could do to get out of washing dishes, because of course we didn't have dishwashers, so you couldn't wait to get out of the house as fast as you could to go play a game. Obviously in the winter it was hockey, and the rink was close. In most cases we could walk to the rink. Maybe it was a half mile. We probably ran or jogged because we were so excited to get there and just get around the kids in the neighborhood. And those are quite frankly incredible memories. Being able to grow up playing hockey outside, and um, you know, as we all know, guys of our age, Lance, we didn't have as many distractions as kids today. So we went outside, we played as long as we could until dark. And even as I got older, it wasn't till dark. You know how they would shut off the rink lights, right? They'd say, you got to go home. Well, we got to a certain age where at least one of us had a car. We just turn on the car lights and shine them on the rink and play. So those are incredible memories growing up in Duluth, Minnesota. So many great friends. I mean, I still talk to some of those kids that I played with from the time I was 10. Those are really great memories, great relationships. As I just mentioned a few minutes ago, that hockey's, it's a small world. You run across those people over and over, just like we are here today, right, Lance? So, grew up in Duluth, five brothers. I guess how I became a goalie is they had to have somebody to shoot on. And I guess that was me.
Where did you fit in the team with the
Yep.
five brothers? Are you in the
Yep.
middle, the bottom?
Yep, 5 out of 6. So if you do any studying of family, well, I guess numbers, right? Uh, Historically, they say the first is independent, then the second, then the third, then the fourth. They all have kind of like their following, and then the fifth, which would be me, becomes now back to the independent one. And at least that's what the science shows or the studies show. So I guess I was a little independent. And honestly, I think besides kind of jokingly that we needed a goalie to shoot on, um, to be perfectly frank, when I do reflect back, um, when you're 5 of 6 in a family and you got neighbor kids and everybody's playing, at the end of the day, I wanted to be involved, and I think the only way I could be involved if I was the goalie, if I could hang around everybody else. Um, I think the only way I could do that was put the pads on and let them shoot at you. So I think it was really just more about just being involved with your friends and your brothers. And I think I came to the conclusion early on the only way that was going to happen is if I put pads on.
That's pretty cool. So once that happened, I mean, would you still skate out and play around as a forward,
Yeah,
or go
great,
ahead?
great question, Lance. Yeah, I love playing out. I mean, um, all the rink games when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Honestly, that's where I really learned the game and learned how to skate, shoot the puck. Um, as many chances as I could to get outside of my equipment, I did. And I'm a firm believer that that ultimately was a huge play in my long-term success in hockey was just the ability to move. And I can specifically recall times when nobody was on the rink. There's a few times that happens, and I would go out and I just skate, um, experiment, and not knowing that it was going to help me as a goalie, but just wanted to become a better skater. And not goalie movement, skating. It was, skating like a forward and a D. So I think so much of that definitely played in my success long term.
Did you ever
Hmm.
think about, learning, from the forward perspective? I mean, you see the game through two lenses where most players that don't play goalie, they just have only seen it through one lens. Do you think that might have been a competitive advantage that you didn't
Yeah,
even know was there?
yeah, for sure, and especially Lance, 100%. Especially when I got to college, when I started teaching my freshman year in college, um, being able to, and now you're shooting on goalies day in and day out. Warren Strelo, Paul Osby, maybe some of the greatest minds in goaltending in Minnesota history, without question. These guys were geniuses, but working for them and being able to shoot the puck on goalies day in and day out, literally all summer long, Lance and Rem, you have a different perspective. So you know what shooters are looking for. And having that perspective, and I think that's one thing sometimes, um, well, I firmly believe today some of today's goalies don't have that perspective. So they become very predictable. And as a goalie, you have to understand that the way I look at it is the game is it's cat and mouse, right? You have to understand what the shooter is looking at and what they see and how they're trying to disguise things. And one of the great ways to do that is actually be that person. So
Yeah.
even as a young kid, when I was playing out, absolutely being able to see it from a different perspective. And when I say that every chance I had to get the pads off and not be in the net, I did. Not because I didn't love playing in the net, but I also liked the other piece of it. I loved the skating and the shooting, and yeah, I think Lance, at the end of the day, I was gaining some really valuable knowledge. And then I'm certain when I started to teach in college that it was really fun, right? So teaching was never a pain, um, or necessarily difficult. It was fun because there was a different perspective, and I think I knew I was benefiting my long term growth.
So Rob, you were coaching while you were playing at the U, like in the summers and stuff?
Yeah, I coach. Yeah, we didn't have what is that, NLI money back
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
Ram. So
yeah.
so
Yeah.
guys like your dad and I, we had to gut it out for $20.
Hey, I didn't get it. I didn't get it either. I think
I know, I
Rhett's there
know.
now. Did Jackson have it when he was in
No,
college? No, he didn't have that
no,
either.
no.
Uh,
I think though, Rem, I think your dad and I both have 1 year of eligibility left. I'd like to go back,
yeah.
um, and give it a good old college try. But no, we had to, we had to work for, we had to make. I'm just giving you an example, and it's probably pretty accurate. We had to make $600 or $700 last all season. That's not
Yeah.
easy to do, and we had to, like you guys, you had to work out. You had to have some jobs, so you had some spending money in the winter. So yeah, I coached, but I loved it. I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot from coaching and the people I was around, like Warren. Obviously, Paul Osby was my coach in college, anyhow. But being around him in the summer and just gathering knowledge was just can't put a price tag on it.
So you two were freshmen together, right? You and my dad.
That's correct.
And then so Paul was coaching both of you guys.
Yep.
He
He
was the
he.
goalie coach at school at that time for you guys.
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Dad, did you get to talk to Paul much when you were at school?
Oh yeah, a ton. He was always around.
Yep.
So
So he wasn't just with the goalies.
no, I mean all the assistant coaches. I mean, we had an unreal staff there that was just connected with all the players. So
Yeah.
um, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here, but I will say this: that trying to make some money when we were there, I can't believe you didn't do this, Rob. Did you ever go give plasma? You go give plasma or blood, and you get $20 or something. I
I
did that
wasn't.
once a week.
I guess I wasn't as smart as you guys. I was no, I was shooting pucks on goalies for the $20.
Okay, so we learned so far that, I mean, Duluth, these smaller northern towns they're very tight knit, and like when you play a city team, it means it's. I always told the players I coached, these guys coming down from up north, it means more to them than it does to you guys right now. We got whipped a bunch of times, but you spent a lot of time outside with friends and your other brothers, siblings. When did you get into organized hockey, and then how was that experience? Because Duluth, it seems like you guys will take your lumps. These smaller programs up there, you'll take your lumps as a youth, and then all of a sudden in high school, you're a powerhouse, and you got like 15 kids on the roster. So talk about your youth program, all those experiences. Did you go to the state tournament at all at any of them?
Yeah, great, Lance, for bringing that up. Yeah, because those are really important times. I started at 5, and I was a goalie from day one. But I had, it's rare. What I had, and the kids in Duluth had, was an incredible human being and a coach. That's rare. We had that, and his son was on our team. His name was Dale Atal. I love the guy till the day he passed away, and I still miss him. He was incredible. Every kid that I'm telling you about that I see today, or we cross paths, or we talk that was 10 years old, we there's not a one of us that doesn't refer back to our youth coach. You say to yourself, well, what was it about him? He was ahead of his time. You know people that are ahead of their time, right, Rem? Lance, Jack Blatherick.
Hmm.
40 years ahead of his time, 60 years ahead of his time, right? The great ones are almost always ahead of their time. And this youth coach was so good. And he coached us and did things, for example, for goaltending. Now this is things have changed, but way back then in the 1972, 73, when I started playing goalie, he made me skate every drill. So every skating drill that the forwards had to do, over the course of practice, you're doing cross unders, crossovers. I had to skate every drill.
Oh my
He said,
God.
"Oh yeah," from day one. He said skating, and I did. I just did what the coach told me to do. I didn't go home and say to my mom and dad, "Why does the goalie have to skate?" I just did what the coach told me to do, and it was the greatest thing again for me was introducing me to say, "Hey, you got to be an athlete. You got to be able to skate. You got to be able to move." The other thing he did, again, just incredible. He made me poke check everything. Anytime somebody came in close, he'd tell me you got to poke check them. And the old saying was, you got to give him Jake the Snake. Now I'm talking back 1972. You got to be Jake the Snake. So guys coming in and stick handling around your feet back then, I mean, you had no chance of stopping them. You couldn't go down because that's the other thing is they didn't want goalies to flop back in the 70s or in the 80s. You were considered a flopper. So you had to stay on your feet with a shooter all around the crease. It's like a nightmare. So the only real way to be super successful was to poke check guys. So he constantly had me skating and using my stick. And those were the two skills that allowed me to climb the ladder. And I had to do that. And I had that coach. I had that same coach till I was 13 years old. The same guys. I was always the youngest kid on the team. I was 2 years younger than everybody else. So I was always playing over my head, per se. But he was an incredible coach, and everybody says it that if you picked any one of those guys, they say he was an incredible coach. So he was instrumental in the success of all these players that came out of Duluth over this period of time in this little area. He was he was a massive reason why so many guys were successful. He skated us hard. We had to practice hard. We had to practice with a purpose, Rem. Um, we were breaking out pucks, and if we didn't do it, we had to do it again. He was just, and he was our baseball coach, and he was the same way in baseball. He was just a sports guy. You can just picture this guy. He was just a sports guy, and um, everybody loved him. I loved him. I still talk to his sons today. We all still miss him, and that was the impact of a great coach and a great teacher.
What's his name again?
Dale Atal.
Did
That
he
was
play? Did he play like pro,
uh,
or like what was his like
no, no.
athletic
He was
journey?
just no. He was just a hockey dad that loved sports.
So
I
did he
mean,
like watch a lot, or how did he
yeah,
like
he
start to like
he
get
had.
these philosophies to teach
Yeah,
you?
that's great. He had to watch a lot of hockey. He had to watch a lot of hockey. Um, uh, Back then, nobody really was coming out of Duluth and playing in the National Hockey League or even in college. There wasn't a lot of that. There was a few guys sporadically here and there, but I think he was an remember I started with he was a great person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
was an incredible person, and that's why I say today you could go to any one of the kids he ever coached, and they say he was unbelievable. So it starts with that, and what a role model he was, um, from a human perspective, and then his ability to connect with kids. I mean, I can still remember times playing. So you asked about state tournaments, Lance. The team we were on, we won everything. We won the Bantam State Championship, the VFW State Championship, the Bantam State Championship. That same team that grew up from the time we were 5, 6 years old, only about 5 players changed to high school. And that was when they were seniors and I was a sophomore. We were the only undefeated team in the state, and we lost in the semis. It was horrific, right? This same team from the time we were 5 and 7 years old,
Wow.
almost exactly the same. A few players switched, right, about 5, but it was and he was a huge part of that journey and our successes as hockey players, um, to a spot where we were just we were dominant in high school, and that started as in the youth.
Did you guys have the same success in baseball?
We were really good in baseball. Yeah, really, really good. We traveled. Lance, when we were, let's go back to hockey. I was about 10, so the other kids would have been 12. We went to Chicago for a tournament, and you know how you said, well, we'd go down to the cities. We weren't going to lose the city teams. We won the
Yeah.
silver stick, or I think we might have lost in overtime to Jefferson or something. It just crushed us, right? But when we were 10, I was 10. Um, the other guys were 12. We went to Chicago and we ran the table, and they wanted to check our birth certificates. We'd go up to Canada and they would want to check our birth certificates. It was ridiculous. We'd have to bring them with. But it was because we had 4 or 5 years with this coach. And it was just, it was a beautiful thing, you know. I think the story, and I guess it's true. Rem, I guess this is true. This is not something I remember. But I think I must have been 7. Let's just say I hope I was 7. I hope I wasn't any older. Maybe I was 6. But we went to Thunder played in a tournament, and we were dominating. That again, when they wanted to check birth certificates or ask for birth dates, they came in the room and they were asking players what their birth dates were, and they came to me and they said, "What's your birthday?" I said, "In the snow time." Well, they said, "Well, he's good. He's not over age." So I guess there were parents in the locker room that heard that too. So we were well coached, and we had the right guy, and he was incredible. And every single one of us that ever was in touch with him is just thankful that we had him as in our life.
Rob, what do you think like he was watching or like studying? I guess I'm asking that because, working with my dad my whole life, and then, my dad just always saying like, keep finding people, keep growing your game, find people, find people. One thing that I've learned is it's just really important to learn from people, but at the same time develop your own lens. So like, yeah, you're talking about this guy who never really played. Like, do you think he was aware of like what he was looking for, or is just like I guess I'm just trying to understand like his style. What did he really like about hockey, and how did he develop that?
Oh, he speed, passing, movement. So that goes back to Rem. That's a great question, and anybody that's listening should. That, that question is pretty deep in a sense that you seem as like a surface question, but it's not. Tarasov, the greatest Russian coach of all time, at least that's what people say. He was a watchmaker.
Hmm.
He
Was
loved
he?
ballet. He loved movement. He
Yeah, yeah,
loved
yeah.
the study of a watch, and he loved ballet, and he loved how everybody moved, and that's how he trained hockey players. He didn't know anything about hockey. He didn't know anything about hockey. So you think of maybe the greatest or one of the greatest minds of all time wasn't even involved in hockey, but he loved movement. And I think our coach loved movement, and he loved the passing and the weaving. We used to weave back in the 70s, and he had guys weaving, and you know, it's just some minds are like that, right? They're not, they're just, and obviously Mr. Atal, I call him Mr. Atal to this day. He was living his dream. He was coaching kids. It's what he loved. He was a salesman at heart. So, a salesman, you have to be able to sell anything like a style, right? So if you're going to
Hmm.
play hockey in the 70s and you're weaving, you have to sell that to kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a skill in itself. So Rem, the question really is good in a sense that um, Tarasov was his players loved him.
Yeah, Dad,
They,
don't you? You've talked about him a couple times in the podcast, haven't you, Dad? Or was there another book you talked about, Dad? The Hockey
No, that's
Handbook? Is
him.
that the Hockey Handbook?
That's what it is. He Tarasoff. He found the Hockey Handbook, which was written by Lloyd Percival, and Lloyd Percival was laughed by Hockey Canada for the book that he produced. Tarasov got it, and all of a sudden, the Russian, right when he was gonna take the team, and that's kind of how it's portrayed that the in addition to the connections to the watchmaking and the ballet, that he merged everything together, and that's how the Russian program really kind of got on the map. Is that right, Rob?
Yeah, and you can find a few clips, but he had guys tumbling on the ice like they were like ballet. They were actually doing ballet on the ice because he understood agility, right? He understood a movement. He understood balance, right? Look at those things: agility, movement, balance. That's the game of hockey. I mean, you're playing on what a blade. Today's blade is real thin compared to what we were on, and
Yeah.
and it's like his it's just it's an incredible story because he didn't have the knowledge. And if I recall correctly, Tarasov was offered video clips of Team Canada, of the Canadians, to say, okay, look, the let's just call them the Russian generals, because that's who I think it was. They approached Tarasov and said, we're going to give you a video of the Canadians. He said, I don't want it. And they said, well, why not? Because I don't want to end up like them. I don't want to look like them. So you think about it, he had to imagine all of this himself. He had to imagine it.
Yeah.
And that's
How
incredible.
where does the watch come in? You said he was a watchmaker. Where
Yeah.
where where do those philosophies come in to impact his hockey style?
So watch how a watch moves. The old wristwatch, we don't have, well, maybe
I'm
some
not
guys
I'm not
have.
a I'm not a watch guy,
Exactly. That's
Rob. So
that's what I'm
Dave
saying is
is.
that a
Yeah.
watch,
I
like
have
how
an
it ticks.
iPhone
You got the big
clock.
hand and the little hand, right? And how they move and how intricate they are. The same thing with ballet. How those
Yeah, yeah.
people moved as a team and how a watch moves as a team. So he it was just his imagination. Um, and I don't want to get too far ahead, Lance. So don't let me forget. I want to tell you something about our
Yeah,
2018
yeah.
Olympic team. I don't want to get ahead, but on this topic.
Yeah. No.
Well, we hey, it's okay, Rob. My dad likes to be on the scooter. Sometimes we need to hop in the Lambo.
No, we're not getting there yet. So let's
Wait,
go
wait, wait,
back.
Dad. I actually, Rob, I have to. I really want to touch on this because you bring up a really great point about the movement and doing things on like a piece of steel that's very thin. Having worked with Adam Oates, he he was really into like movement that way as well. There's a movement called practice called Feldenkrais, which is really interesting. You know, you'd have to look it up, but basically Adam kind of had these same discoveries for himself, and he's like, you know, guys are so focused on working out in the gym and doing things like that, but what happens when you're in your shoes and now you're on a piece of steel, and now add a puck out there which you have to look at, and it changes your balance based on the awareness of your eyes. You know, there's just something so much deeper here. So it sounds like this Tarasov guy was really in touch with, like, yeah, movements. It's really cool to hear you talk about it, because I know my dad has talked a lot about that, you know, in our house growing up. So I appreciate you teaching me more about that and what he was looking at. So really cool thought.
Well, it's feel. When I work with goalies, you know, you got to be able to feel your body. You've got to be able to feel the movements. I can tell you stories. It's just mind blowing. Where, you know, again, somebody might teach differently, but you know, I was taught when you move post to post, you protect inside out. So when you get to the post, you want your stick there first, and you want the stick up against the post to protect the inside or the puck coming inside. That's the most dangerous play. As the puck is moved out away from the net or away from the stick blade, it's going to be technically likely an easier save. So we were taught to, you know, make sure that your stick blade is there first. Now, most goalies don't do that now, but at least in our era, and the things that made a lot of sense. Well, guys, you wouldn't believe the number of times goalies would do it wrong over and over and over. And they'd get to a post. I'd say, "Where's your stick?" They'd look down. I go, "You don't need to look down to see that your stick is not on your toe. Can't you feel it?
Yeah,
Can't you feel
exactly.
that your stick is in the wrong spot?" And if you're not paying attention to how it feels and how the movements feel, well, now you're just being a robot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never, that's not going to be an athlete. That's not going to be a a ballet dancer, or you've got to be able to pay attention to how the body works and how it feels. So you know what you're saying about Adam Oates makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're getting on a skate blade, and you got to have this incredible feel and balance and agility. So makes a lot of sense to pay attention to it.
Yeah, Feldenkrais, their like tagline is awareness through movement. So basically what you're saying.
Hmm.
So, Rob, one of the big things for, for our listeners that don't live in Minnesota, every year in March, we have the March to, no pun intended, the March to the X, where the Minnesota High School State Tournament, both boys and girls, girls is first. It's a big event, and it's like David and Goliath. These northern teams come down, and once in a while they sprinkle magic and just keep the dream alive for these young kids growing up. On those ponds up there, and the rinks that are maintained by a couple neighbors. Did you make it to the big dance at the high school level? I'm assuming you did, because you win at everything. Uh, and just talk about, if your first time, if you went there several times, what that was like and what that meant to you and that community.
Well, Lance, that gives me chills just the way you said it, because I'm going to touch on something here in a second. But yeah, we made it. So it was uh,
We made it.
yeah, it was 1986. It was the first time our school ever made it. In the late 70s and in early 80s, Duluth Denfeld, where I went to school in the late 70s, my brothers were there in the late 70s. They had great teams. In fact, I'll never forget. I mean, I know right where I was sitting in 1979, 1980. The Bukestad brothers were in Irondale. John Downing was the goalie for Irondale. Duluth Denfeld has this great team, great players. I'm sitting up in the stands, and they're down 3-0 before you know it in Duluth. And they end up losing the game 7-4 to Irondale, and they were devastated. Like, I mean, I was devastated for my brother that was on the team. I was like, oh, this is, I mean, they just got that thing got away from them, and they were Duluth Denfeld was really good for a period of time. I mean, that's just how sometimes things work. You get great coaches, you get great players, like we talk about, and you can have a real success and a real run. And we were the carryover of kind of that momentum. But as I said, we lost in 1984 undefeated. It was crushing. It was just crushing. I mean, I mean, the seniors, many of them went on to play D1. Many of them, they were. I mean, it was crushing. That was our dream, right? And in '85, we lost in the semis, and in '86,
Your senior year, our senior
yep,
year.
my senior year, I know that there was just no way we were not going to get there. There was no way we were not going to get there, and we got there, and it was it's chilling, right, for anybody that's played in it. Many guys, as I speak about it, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the prayer before the game. You knew we were going to win. There was no way we were going to lose, and there wasn't. I can say it. There wasn't a chance in hell we were going to lose that game, and we dominated Anoka in Duluth, and it was quite the run. It was quite the run. Then we went on to beat Bloomington Jefferson in the opening game. At that time, it was Bloomington Jefferson's first loss ever in their opening game.
Yeah.
And then we eventually lost to Burnsville, who won it with Scott Bloom and Wernis, and we ended up losing. I believe it was 3-1 empty net. It was a tight game, and then we ended up winning the third place game. So, yeah, Lance, you're right. There was no way we weren't getting there. I mean, we were going to get there. And the cool thing is, Rem, the cool thing about that team is, and there's video of it, and I even have a close friend down here in Florida that he said, when you guys made it in '86, and I watched your interview, he goes, I hated you. He goes, I was so mad at you because when I was interviewed, they said, they ask you about the journey. And I said, listen, I'll never forget it. I said, we had an unbelievable team 2 years ago, undefeated. I said, but unfortunately, that team didn't have half the heart this team has. And he goes, you broke my heart. The guy tells me today, you broke my heart. But he goes, you know what, Rob? You were right. We were destined. We were going to make it. We had the heart of a lion, and we did not have the best players. We did not have the best players. We didn't have a whole team full that went to D1 like the '84 team, but we had the heart of a lion and the commitment. And, when you're part of a team like that and it's that special, you recognize the difference between winning and losing. And if you don't, it's a shame because it's a missed opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rob,
go
ahead,
well,
Rob.
Dad, yeah, thanks. I have to ask you a little question because you're talking about heart. We're hopping back in the Lambo, but you said something to me at my dad's house when you came and looked around because we were talking about your businesses at the goal crease and then you coaching in the Olympics, and then we were talking about the Russians, Tarasov, all those different things. But you were talking about your philosophies as a coach. And, it sounds like you've been on these teams with heart. You grew up with a coach who was a really good guy. And one thing that you said to me that really, really hit me that, I've had certain experiences playing pro is that you said that when you coach, you coach a certain style because you love your life with hockey or without hockey. And like you really believed in a certain style and philosophy with how to play. So I think that you kind of already were mentioning in the podcast, you said you wanted to tell a story about the Olympics, but can you just add or talk a little bit about your journey to coaching the Olympic team and your styles that you took from Tarasov and like how you stayed strong and how you wanted to coach and how you wanted to be and not kind of like succumbing to the fear, even if you felt like, oh, I need to coach a certain way to win. You just like stayed true to who you were.
Yeah, that's good. Good memory there too, Rem. I know exactly what I said to you. I said, unfortunately, we've all been around a long time. Your dad's been around a long time, and the pressures of coaching, what happens far too often, maybe almost always, but coaches end up coaching out of fear and not out of love. And there's a massive difference between the two. And you got to love what you're doing. You got to believe in what you're doing, but it's not fearful. And, when coaches are at high levels, there's a lot of pressure. And as that pressure becomes greater and greater, which inevitably it does, it just does. It comes with the territory. So many people tighten up and they start to coach out of fear. And I know that, I recognize it. And that was, it was never going to happen with me. Never, ever going to happen with me. I coached in the Olympic gold medal game. We went into a shootout, and there wasn't one time. There's not one time I ever doubted. There's not one time I ever wanted to be anywhere else. There's not one time I was ever fearful of the outcome. And I believe because of that, the outcome takes care of itself. And, um, you know, Lance, you asked me earlier, like, kind of how does something like this ever come to fruition? I had basically zero head coaching experience, and I was named the head coach of the women's Olympic team. That's likely never to happen again, but
That is amazing.
yeah, it is amazing. Our general manager, she's very sharp. She has a business mind. She's very, very sharp, and she had a business mind, and she could recognize things. And it was probably good that she had a hockey background, but not like one would think of a general manager, not like that. But she had a business mind, and she could see things, and she could see problems, and so she came at it from a different perspective, which obviously was critical, right? Is at the end of the day, the U.S. women's program lost for 20 straight years. They lost 4 gold medals in a row, and there's reasons for that, and she wasn't oblivious to it, and she was willing to look at it differently, and her heart clearly told her that she had to take a risk, and she risked everything by hiring somebody that had zero head coaching experience. But she knew me, and she because I had been around her I started with the women's team in 2011, so I'd already been around her for 6-7 years, and I think she had a comfort level that I was going to bring that heart to the table, and I think we all know when you bring that heart to the table, the chances of getting the result you're looking for greatly improves. And that's really what you're trying to do, is really greatly improve your chances of the result you want. And in order to do that, you can't keep going down the same path. And she was, wise from that business perspective and sharp to see that and make a decision that was far different than 99.99% of the people would have went the safe route.
So speaking of coaching, this is our kind of first intersection together. We got to be coached by an incredible staff our senior year. At the end of the season, I think it was called Team Minnesota, but Herb Brooks, the legendary coach, who didn't at that time probably, I don't know if he ever did, but he wasn't coaching out of fear. He was coaching out of love. But this group of coaches put together what they thought was a team that could compete in a small tournament out east, and we were both picked for that team. What do you remember about that experience? It was pretty
It,
cool.
it was incredible. It was incredible. So Lance, it's great because we were very fortunate to be coached by Herb Brooks. That was a 6 to 8 week run we had with him, right?
Yep.
And it was an incredible journey. And for me, this is interesting. I want to share this with you. And, I wish I could ask Herb today. Obviously, I can't. But we know what a genius Herb Brooks was as a coach. Not a motivator in a sense of motivation that lasts for 2 months. His motivations were to change a life. There's no question he wanted to change people's lives. If they wanted something different, he was there to guide you. But it wasn't for a 3 month run. It was a life perspective, and I think he was a total genius in how he approached it. And so I want to go back to the state tournament. Back then, Rem, we had VHS. You know what that is?
Yes, I got Instat now on my computer.
Okay, so we had VHS recorders, and you play in the state tournament, and you have people at home record those games. Well, I went
Yeah,
back and
yeah, yeah.
watched them, like every kid did, and we were, and Herb was doing our games. He was the color commentary. It wasn't Lou Nanny for whatever reason. I don't know if Lou was gone or what. It doesn't matter. But Herb was doing the color. And Lance, as you know that there was at least 2 or 3 opportunities in that tournament, the state tournament, where I could catch players with their head down.
Yeah. Yeah.
On a breakaway, right?
Yeah.
And you know what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
So I did it in the tournament.
Someone's going ass over tea kettle.
Yep.
Wait, what are you doing the Lance Pitlick as a goalie?
Yeah. Yes. You got it.
My.
Well, Rem, you got to
too.
go.
No wonder why you two were teammates, huh?
Yeah, you got to go check out a little YouTube there, Rem. But so I in the tournament, I did it and I was successful at it. And as I'm watching the game and Herb is commentating, now Lance, you already know that Herb's going to be the coach of this team, right? At this time, he's the coach of that team.
Yep.
So he says, as he's watching the game, he goes, Stauber can't do that. He needs to stay in the net.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So get this. Fast forward, Lance. We're playing in Chicago. You, me, Scards, Blaine Rude, all those guys, right?
Yep.
Sagasaur, Bloomer. Tony Esposito's kid gets a semi-breakaway. Cutting around a D. He's got 2 steps. Probably wasn't you, Lance. You would have kept him in front of you. But it was probably Randy. Randy was probably caught up ice. Shocking. Anyways, so he's got 2 steps on Randy, let's say, and he's cutting to the net, and I go, this is perfect. I come out and I nail him. I crush the kid. And he goes flying over head over tea kettle, and it's pretty ugly for him. And I wasn't trying to hurt him, but I'm also not going to get scored on. So after the game, I think Herb said something about it again, and I'm like, guys, my point is, I think he was saying it because he liked it. I think he was saying, I think he wanted to see if I would keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I think he wanted me to keep doing it. And I think he probably knew me, that in the back of my mind, you guys can only imagine what I was saying. I was saying, listen, Herb, you want a gold medal, but you've never been a goalie. I'm doing it. Okay?
He wanted
You're
to see if you had that still.
I had that in my gut. I'm like, you can't tell me how to play this position. I've been doing this, and I'm perfecting it. I've been perfecting this move for years. I'm doing it. And so I think, Lance.
A quick word from our sponsor, headsuphockey.ai. The Hockey Journey podcast has a new sheriff in town sponsoring the show, and Coach Lance couldn't be more excited about spreading the love to all of you hockey enthusiasts out there about this new revolutionary stick handling training application powered by AI technology. Michael Fitzgerald and his team over at headsuphockey.ai have absolutely knocked it out of the park with their engaging product that encompasses the majority of the stick skill development sectors like dribbling, faking, cupping, and to me, the most important hockey enhancer of all, and that's vision training. Oh, and did I forget to mention that all of the progress players gain over time using this spectacular device is achieved in a gamification environment, providing performance analytics and data tracking to ensure continuous forward momentum. If interested in picking up a headsuphockey.ai and start the process of separating yourself from the competition, use the code CoachLance at checkout and receive 10% off your developmental investment into yourself. Thank you, Michael Fitzgerald and the headsuphockey.ai team.
I go back to, we were in Chicago. I know exactly how the play happened. It was like the iconic, perfect time for me to do what I like to do and not get scored on. So, so Lance, I don't know if you remember. I remember. We go out. We're out east. Remember, we stayed in Boston. Remember how we went underneath the hotel was right over the freeway. Remember the Radisson we stayed at?
Yep.
Okay. So,
how about that memory?
Yep, got to know exactly, right? So championship game, Rem. I get the start. I get the starting call. Lance, we were down 3-0 before you know it.
We were. I was minus
Right?
three. I was minus three.
And I was -3, clearly. So Herb pulls me. Remy pulls me. Like the biggest game, other than a state tournament of my life. I'm like, I just got yanked and we're down 3-0. I stink. So
Is this the championship game, right?
yeah, championship
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Remember, we won 10-9.
So is this how you want me to take your test moment?
Hold on.
So, so, so Herb pulls me, and of course I'm not too thrilled about it. And I go on the bench, and I'm sitting there, and I'm sure I had a little bad body language. Not mad at him for pulling me, but mad because here's the big moment, and I stunk. Like that's it's like it's unacceptable. Like I feel horrible. Well, out of the corner of my left eye, I see Herb. No, this was a minute or two after. It wasn't right away. It was probably 3 minutes after. He starts walking down. I see him coming, and he looks at me. He goes, "What's wrong with you?" I go, "Well, I stink. I got pulled." He goes, "So?" He goes, "You're going back in."
Wow.
So I think it was after the first period, he pulled Scott Nelson, the goalie from Grand Rapids, and put me back in, and we end up winning 10-9 in overtime. You remember?
Oh,
See,
yeah.
he just wanted you to take his test. Did you not get what I was talking about,
Yes, I
Dad?
do. I know 100% his test. His test. That's why he's a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, like, he wasn't coaching out of fear. He was like, he loved people. He loved the people he was coaching. He wanted the best for people. He wanted them not for 2 months, but for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And so yeah, Lance, I remember that. I remember some of our practices. In fact, Lance, if you still have the photo of that team, which I do, look at your face, Randy's face, my face. We are as red as a fire engine after a practice. He put us through the paces like we'd never been, and it was fast too, right? It was probably fast, up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great journey, just a great journey.
And it really connected. What I thought was so cool is that so many of you were, played against each other in the state tournament, and then all of a sudden we're teammates, and then we get a dose of reality that summer after we go out there and win that tournament. One of our teammates passes away, and that hit me in the gut pretty hard with
It
George
was
Palawa.
it was horrific. I know right where I was. I was just before we went to school, Lance. Right before I went to the cities, I went to play the last round of golf with some older guys that I played with at the golf course, and one of them was a newscaster. And he goes, "You see what happened?" I said, "No," and he told me. I'm like, it's horrendous. And what a gentle giant he was. He should never be forgotten. Hopefully he's not. But George Palawa was a gentle giant. For the short term or short time we were teammates, Lance, you could get that right. He was
Oh,
just a incredible guy.
and then we lost Mr. Brooks as well too early.
Yep.
But those were, it's you look back on that and you just, I guess, for both of us, I'll speak for both of us, you just really realize how special that moment in time was and how precious it is of what we get to do here on this little planet.
Yeah. And Lance, the one of the things that I was so excited about on that team, if there was one thing I wanted most, I enjoy winning. I mean, I mean, I played to win, but in that moment in time, one of the biggest things I wanted to pull from that experience, and this was leading up to it. So once, we got named and then we're on the team, is ultimately what I really wanted to gather from that and it had to work out. Like things had to happen in such a way that it happened the way it did. But to be in a championship game where Herb Brooks delivers a message before our gold medal game, right? That
Yeah.
was our gold medal game. More than anything, if 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 I could, I can't. But being in the locker room before his speech is probably one of the most it is. It's more valuable than winning a gold medal. The gold medal is going to go get dusty. The win is going to wear off, but it's really those critical and special moments what leaders do. And we had that, Lance, when Herb came in to the locker room for our 2-3 minutes before we go out for our gold medal game. That is the most important thing we can likely draw from an experience like that. It's not the 10-9 win, which was fantastic and all the joy. And what Herb Brooks said internally to people that was as much joy as he's ever had, partly because his son was on the team, Danny Brooks. I'm sure that was a huge reason why it felt so special. But he prepared us, and he prepared his emotion before that 2 or 3 minutes before we went on the ice like it was his gold medal game. And we really had a chance to pull from that for the rest of our life. And I think that's probably the most important thing we could gather from that.
Have you guys read that article on Herb? I don't know who wrote it, but it was something about Herb and like the dreamer of dreams and kind of like his life story and something about like Willy Wonka, dreamer of dreams. Have you guys read that article?
Rem, I recollect I recollect what you said. I'd have to go read it again and say, yeah, I read it. But yes, he was a dreamer,
Yeah.
right? He was a dreamer, and what a life he had, and yeah. So
Yeah, it just you made me think of it just because of like it was his gold medal game. It's a really interesting thing that my cat threw me out. Yeah, just kind of his story about how I don't think that he made the Olympic team, and his dad kind of made like a fadeaway comment that I guess Herb never. It kind of like how I interpreted that Herb didn't forget, and like yeah, he wanted to like do something and dream, even though other people didn't think it was possible type thing. So it was a pretty inspiring article. Um, my old agent Neil Sheehy, who's obviously connected with Paul Otsby. Those two are agents together. Amazing, amazing people. They got to know Herb really well, and then Neil was super close with him. So Neil had shared that article with me like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was really inspiring to me. So you made me think of it.
It's you think about it, Rob, like how lucky we were that Herb Brooks was not so that the team that we had there, but let's now transition to the University of Minnesota. Uh, Herb Brooks's best friends were Jack Blatherwick, Paul Otsby, Bob Shire, uh, David Knobloch, all Doug Woog, Dean Talifas. They were just like the collaborators, and we were the beneficiaries of all of those people being connected at the University of Minnesota. So let's transition to that. I want you to quickly touch on how did you go to the University of Minnesota and not North Dakota or Duluth where you live? Because that doesn't
yeah,
happen very often.
yeah. Well, let me just first touch on what you said about the coaching staff, Lance. There's no secret why, at least in our time, I left a year early, right? I left as a junior, but certainly my 3 years there, we made it to the national championship 3 years in a row. That's not just Wooger and Talifas. It starts with the winning tradition of Herbie and what he brought to the table, and then when you follow her, Brooks, like Wooger did and Brad Buto, like there's expectations which are very high, which was we were a beneficiary of that starting with Herbie in the 70s, and not that's not taking anything away from anybody else, but Herbie, he was able to capture championships, right? And we had great coaches, 100%. Every single one of them are just winners as people, and that we were beneficiaries of those great people, no question. So how do I end up at the University of Minnesota? First of all, my mom's a tough lady, very, very tough. Raised 6 boys. She's sharper than, oh my gosh, so sharp and tough. She grew up in a bar. Her parents owned a bar back in the 30s and 40s in Wisconsin, and she would watch her mom and dad have to deal with people at the bar and how to deal with people. And so you can imagine what I'm talking about, right? Lumberjacks that come into the bar and they don't behave. There's a way you handle things, and and my mom learned. And so when she has 6 boys, it's like the perfect person for 6 boys. She knew how to handle them. You just didn't mess around. So I get I didn't have many offers, Lance. Back then it was like, okay, which team needs a goalie? There might have only been 5 teams that needed a goalie in the country, or 7, right? Or 5 out west, or 4 out west,
Never
right?
thought about that.
Yeah. So UMD, technically they didn't need a goalie. They had John Hajduk, who was drafted by LA, and he would have been a sophomore the year I came into the University of Minnesota. So they had a sophomore goalie. They had Mike Cortez. They had their numbers. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to opportunity. Well, I got a scholarship offer to Colorado College, and to be honest, I didn't want to go to Colorado College, but I was going to take the visit, and I had set up the visit to go out there, Rem. And the reason I took the visit was so I could skip an extra 2 days of school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was scheduled to go, and my mom said she wasn't in on any of those conversations. I had set up the thing. I was ready to fly out, a day or two later, right? And my mom said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to go check out Colorado College. She goes, oh, you are? I said, yeah. She goes, well, where do you want to go? I said, well, the University of Minnesota. She goes, you're not going to Colorado College. You call them. Okay? You call them. Call Minnesota and tell them what you want. But prior to that, Lance and Rem, this is cool. This is the day, and Lance, it was probably very similar for you, where when they recruited you, Rem, and maybe they still do it, but the whole staff came to the house. So Blatherwick was there, Osby was there, Butters was there, Talafis was there, and Woog was there. And they come to our house, and we got a very small house, and they're sitting in the family room. And of course, we had a couch, some chairs, and of course, I let everybody sit down, and I stood in the doorway leading into that room. And Wooger started with, hey, let's be honest here. You're not going to play a lot. We got John Blue. He's a 2-time All-American. You're not going to play a lot. And as soon as he said that, under my breath, I said, you're not going to tell me I'm not going to play a lot. I'm going to play. And that was it. I said, I'm going to Minnesota. Now, I always wanted to go to the University of Minnesota because my family had season tickets to the UMD games all through the 70s. And we actually housed players back in the 70s when you could billet college players. So we had several players stay with us. But I was always intrigued by the University of Minnesota because they'd come in and win. And that I was attracted to the team that would win. So in my heart, I always wanted to go to, at that time, Minnesota was winning. And I'm like, I want to be part of a winner. So that was inevitably the bottom line. But when Wooger said you're not gonna play, I'm like, under my breath, and I'm being dead serious, under my breath, I said, you can't come into my house and tell me I'm not gonna play. You can't do that. And I'm gonna play. And that was it. I'm going to Minnesota.
That's how it happened. That's it.
That's
Love it.
Exactly how. I'll never forget it. I was pissed. I was perturbed that, and hey, that was his honesty.
Yeah.
And Lance, here's the thing, Rem. I go to the University of Minnesota, and Lance, again, I'm a goalie, so I have very good memory on certain things. I ended up playing 18 games that year when I wasn't going to play at all, which was half the games.
Now hold on. Okay, so we're both there. I didn't
Yep.
play for probably maybe I didn't get in until the fourth or fifth weekend. I have
Yep.
no idea. I mean, when
Yep.
did you get your first start? Because I'm sure we had some bitching
Right.
conversations, together.
The very first weekend in CC.
You did.
Right from the start. But here's Lance. This is the interesting thing. I know why it happened. We I was probably practicing fairly well, and no, this is when Lance. We had like 8 goalies trying out for the team. That's when we had JV, and we had to cut goalies off the JV.
Yes.
We had like 8 goalies trying out to be Gopher goalies, and there were some darn good ones, and so not only did you have John Blue, I was recruited on a half scholarship. We had other really good goalies at the University of Minnesota that you had to beat out. So I think I was practicing well, but more importantly, Lance, we went up to Thief River, Tim Berglund's hometown. Remember, we went out and we had one of those maroon and gold games.
Yes.
So we get on the bus and we travel up and we're going to play the maroon and gold game, Rem. And so it's half a Gopher team because we had a JV team. We had enough probably to field 3 teams. And so we had 8 lines. And but prior to the game, Lance, remember Wooger would do that drill where you'd have one puck, the guy would go down and try to score, and if you didn't, you'd have to go get a puck, and then it would be 2 guys come in.
Yep.
And then if you scored, then you'd start over, and it was like the first one up to 5,
Yep.
I think was the number, right? And John Blue was at the other end, and I was starting for the other team. And so Wooger does that drill. Corey Millen comes down on a breakaway on me, can't score. They come in 2-0, they can't score. 3-0, they can't score. They scored 5 on Bluey before they got 1 on me. I was not going to lose. I was not going to lose that. There's no way I was going to lose that, and not only lose it, but I was going to try to stand on my head. And the minute that happened, that changed everybody's perspective. We've got somebody here that's going to compete for the job, and I know it because I got in the first weekend.
That's crazy.
And
That is really crazy.
Yeah, 2 weeks later, I was playing against North Dakota, the number 1 team in the country, and we ended up losing 2-1 at home. We lost Friday night, and they played me Saturday night against North Dakota. That's freshman goalie back then. He's 18. I'm 18 years old. And just a young kid. But yeah, Lance, that was really how I went to the University of Minnesota, and Rem. What I'm about to tell you is factual. Lance may not exactly remember it. Your dad may not remember it.
Probably not.
But my sophomore year, which we've already discussed when I was fortunate enough to be honored with the Hobey Baker, the real reason that actually even happened, and this is a fact, Rem, we averaged 37 shots against a night. That was the Olympic year. We were scheduled to take 10th. They did the preseason. They said Gophers lost Millen, they lost Chorsky, they lost Snuggerud, they lost Blue. We were estimated to be 10th in the league, 8th or 10th, like one of the worst teams in the league because we lost supposedly everybody. Remember, Lance?
That's how I got a full scholarship that year. You probably did too.
I think 100% right. So we're scheduled to take 8th place. Now, they could have been wrong. Maybe we were 6th, 5th, 7th. Rem, we won the WCHA with 34 wins, 1 win shy of all-time record at the University of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay? The reality is we gave up 37 shots a night. We were a run-and-gun team. Did we play much? Like Lance, we didn't play a lot of defense. We were run and gun. We just tried to outscore everybody. I don't know if the coaches said this is our best chance of success. I have no idea. I just know that we were a run and gun team, and so when you're giving up 37 shots a night, a goalie has a chance to look good if they're having a good night because they're going to be under a lot of pressure, and that's really what happened. I was really fortunate to be on a team that was a run and gun that year. And we run and gun, Lance, remember?
Oh, it was so frustrating for me because I was really focused on being a solid defenseman, and
Yeah.
it wasn't working.
Well, no. Well, how many 2-on-1s did you face when your partner was up ice?
Well, that too, but I think I'm just glad that there were a lot of people that could put the puck at the other end of the net, and we had you stopping everyone else. Man, those were fun times, and this is what's really cool is that we've raised kids that that also have had the same experience. Rem, you played at the University of Minnesota. Hearing these stories, does that kind of connect you to that program and and what the specialness of what that meant? Because I mean, you were an All-American your junior year. I mean, you had Robb Stauber like year that year. I mean, what was your experience there, compared to what you're here now?
I mean, I think the theme, honestly, like through this entire podcast, Rob, you're talking about your youth coaches, and I'm saying it not because you're my dad, just like as a man to you, dad, just like how amazing of a person like you are, and I feel really grateful that it seems like you guys went through those same experiences, being around really good people, and like then you get to raise your kids that way. So I mean, it was very similar to your guys's experience. I mean, it started my first 2 years there. I played for Don Lucia, and Dad, remember when I was going to go back to junior one more year, and then Don kind of had a feeling like I was ready for school, and then that my coach in junior got fired, and then I ended up wanting to go to school like 2 weeks before school started, and Don had like put aside scholarship money and like had everything set up just in case. So I feel like from day one, I was really like taken care of there and like valued and treated really well. And then my junior year, I do feel like I got really lucky with Bob Motzko. He came in there, and Bob likes to play an offensive style, and I feel like that suited my game really well. So he definitely put me in spots where I felt like I could succeed. And then, yeah, good guy, great leader, coaching staff, and then the guys around me. You guys talked about your close knit team as well. I feel like that was really part of it. I developed a lot of chemistry with, especially my line mates and different things like that. But I mean, I think it just sounds like the same exact stories. There's a culture there of good people, and I think at the end of the day, like you definitely have the skill, and it's very very important to have skill and work on your game, and that's obviously like what your business is made, Dad. Like working on your game, especially outside of team settings, like where are you going to get your extra touches? Rob, I've been at the goal crease since I was a little kid. One of my best friends growing up was a goalie, so he would go there and I'd go shoot on him, and that's one of your businesses where you're helping kids develop and working on your game. But if the heart's not there and you're not a good guy, I don't think anything lasts. So that was my experience, and I'm sure that's why the University of Minnesota is like my opinion. We're all Minnesota guys. Maybe our humble opinion. It's the place to be. But it sounds like there's a reason for that. It's good vibes.
Rob, you and I also had an experience um, our junior year where we were fortunate enough to make it to the national championship game against Harvard in 1989, I think it was, here at the old St. Paul Civic Center, and that was just a magical year, much like the Hobey Baker year. But it just kept on getting better for you because that wasn't the same year. The Hobey Baker wasn't the national championship year, was it?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Hey, did you win Mr. Hockey?
No, did they even have it then? I don't even know if they had it then. But no, I did not.
They were watching
But
you and they realized that they needed to make a thing called Mr. Hockey, and you were just a year
yeah,
late.
no, they did have it because didn't George win it? Did George win it that year?
He did win it. Okay,
Yep.
and here's how I don't know. I was up for that award. Why don't I remember who? But
That's right, Dad.
you weren't even in
The
you
rink,
weren't even
Dad.
in that group.
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh wow, I thought you were part of that group. Okay, well, all right. I one upped you one time. Thank you.
Yes.
All
All
right,
right.
I'm pumpernickeling right now.
Dad, you're on the banner at New Hope in the North Ring up in the corner. You have the Mr. Hockey finalists here up there.
I'll have to look at that, but Yeah, we made it to the national championship game, lost to Harvard. Gal, I still haven't watched that game. And just so you know, we are well over an hour right now, and we're not going to be able to cover what's going to happen next because that's a whole nother episode of talking your professional career and then what you've done, since you retired from playing from a coaching perspective and also business. But let's just kind of wrap up. You know, our college deal. That game, you try to coach kids and prepare them for moments. And I didn't have many moments for big games like that. I had this Pee Wee, I think second year Pee Wee state tournament, lost in the championship game up in International Falls. I think that's where that was. And then never made it to the high school state tournament. And then the national tournament was the bridesmaid there as well. So unfortunately, but that game, I mean, it is incredible. Only not only to get there because it just things just work out on those years, but that game, I thought we were going to win it so many times, and to lose it hurt, but it hurt more for to me. It was I felt bad more for everyone else that was there, my family, my friends. Um, that's where it was really hard. How about you?
Yeah, Lance, I know, right? I can picture Wooger in the locker room right now. I know exactly how I was sitting. I remember seeing Wooger's face. Um, I get chills thinking about it because he, I mean, he tried to spin it, which you can't spin, but he was a sad man that day. Like all of us were sad. I looked at Paul Broughton and I couldn't be any more sad because I couldn't think of a better, like he was such an awesome guy. Um, well, no, Paulie wasn't on that team. That was the year before. Remember when we lost in Lake Placid?
Yes.
Same situation. We lost 3-2, so I'm just drawing on memories of being, to your point, being sad for my teammates and sad for, yeah, I mean, sad for people that you went to battle with and that you cared with, and when you looked across the room and you saw the disappointment, it that stings. That just it sucks. And
It was our all the stars are aligning. We had
yep,
been to the final four the two previous years. I mean, not a bad college
yep.
life so far. And then we make it again to the final four. It's in Minnesota to the national championship game, and that happens. So this is part of the journey. I mean, if you want the big highs, you want to score that triple overtime championship game winning goal. You got to be also willing to step on the ice and possibly lose in those environments as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Lance, this is random. It's not off topic, but Rem,
Hmm.
what would you do if you're in that championship game, you lose 4-3? I mean, I do. I remember seeing my parents in the lobby. I mean, everybody's devastated.
Double overtime, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you got to have a like you got to have a like you got to be a pro about it, right? Like we still have to be a pro about it, even though we're not pros yet. Like you got to take your lumps, and that was a bad one. But Rem, I had agreed, and this was prior, so it could have been a week prior. I had agreed to give a speech in Superior, Wisconsin to a D3 hockey team on Sunday. We lost Saturday. So 2 weeks before, I had already agreed, I had been asked to give a speech or talk to a D3 hockey team, University of Wisconsin Superior, and we had just lost. Do you show up for that speech on Sunday?
I mean, I personally probably would have just communicated what was in my heart and what I was feeling
No,
at
you
that
wouldn't have
time.
been there, Ram.
I feel like if I was in that moment, I would have been like, you know what, I want to give my best to that, and like I just am kind of like wrapped up in what I just experienced Saturday night. Just so for the good of everyone, it's probably best if I wait a week so I can like kind of be on my game for the speech. But if you want me there, I can honor my word. But that's probably how I would have navigated it.
I was there. I
That's
gave that
unbelievable.
speech. It was terrible. I mean, and I'm sure I talked a little bit about our disappointing loss, but I was giving a speech to a D3 college hockey team the next day at like 1 o'clock. Um, that sucked.
Yeah, that's tough.
But it's just one of those memories, right? Like, oh my gosh. Um, you know, but Lance, yeah, I mean, I look back. We can say this. I know going in as a freshman, you remember Tim Berglund,
Yeah.
Eric Dornfeld, Gary Schopecht, um,
Craig
our
Maddox.
leaders. Remember, our leaders were incredible. Like they were in, like Gary Schopecht. Like, does it get better than Gary Schopecht? Like his love for the game and his heart for the game? No, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, the
Junkyard
guy,
Dog.
he was a. I mean, I love the guy. Just like you could go to practice with that guy every single day, couldn't you? And you could play. You could put on that jersey the rest of your life with him every night, even when you're 70 years old, because you know he's going to give it everything he has.
Yeah.
You know, Tim Berglund. Remember a professional? How professional he was, and what like. Let's just call him a true leader. How he treated people, whether you were a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, he treated you with respect. I mean, Eric Dornfeld, right? I mean, man, we had good role models. When you step back from it, right? I mean, I was aware of it when it was happening. I could see the role models. Paulie Broughton, remember how he took over the team when all the Olympians left?
Oh,
Remember how good he was
yes.
as a leader? Like he's probably one of the big reasons why we're so successful that our sophomore year is that he just wasn't going to lose either, was he?
No,
You
it
know,
wasn't.
no, and we were gosh, we were fortunate to be there when we were, and to have the leadership and the coaches and Rem. I want to end with this. You asked about the coaches. You asked about Paul Osby. You asked Lance is talking about Dean Talafis and Bill Butters and Dave Knobloch and Bob Shire. I mean, it was incredible. Rem, I can't even quantify. Like it'd be hard for somebody to imagine all these great people and different opinions, right? They fought internally. They
Hmm.
weren't all they would fight for what they believed. But here's how great it was. This is the kind of fun we had, Ram. This is my sophomore year. I loved practice. I wanted to be on the ice. We used to practice 3 hours. Too, Rem and Lance can attest to that. We'd practice 3 hour practices. We'd cut the ice after an hour and a half, and we'd go on for another hour, hour and a half, or whatever. I mean, it was incredible. So I loved to practice. I'd rather be there than anywhere. So Paul Osby, he had another job, like a side job, even though Gopher coaching was probably his main thing. But he didn't make enough money probably, so he would have a side job. And some days he'd come like 10 minutes late to practice. He'd be running on the ice because he'd come from his other job. And I was livid. I
Those are
wanted
your
that.
reps. Those are your reps,
Those are
Paul.
my reps. I'm livid at Paul. I'm livid. Like I need those 10 minutes of reps. I want those. And he wasn't always late, but when he was, I was just perturbed. I wanted more because what he could bring to the table, I wanted as much of him as I could get. Right. So I I figured one day he was going to be late. So I went to Dean Talafis. I was a sophomore. I said, Dean, here's the deal. Oz is going to come late today. I say we're gonna have some fun with him. So you're going to be warming me up when he comes out. He's going to skate on the ice like he always does, and we're going to finish just a drill. Like you're going to finish shooting one puck. We got this all timed out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
said, and as soon as I see him come, I'll nod to you or something. You're going to come up to me and you're going to start coaching me. You're going to start showing me what to do. You're going to kick your leg out, and I'm going to be shaking my head like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, Paul was so furious. He comes down. He's, what are you doing, right? We had him hook, line, and sinker. I'll never forget it. Like, okay, Paul, will you show up on time, and then Dino
Then we'll
won't have,
work.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dino won't have to coach me. But that's the kind of fun we had. With our coaching staff and the camaraderie we had was lights out.
Well,
Yeah.
gentlemen, that was so much fun. I mean, we're over.
Dad, that we can we pause for 1 second before we get there? I do have one more question, if that's all right.
Do you have a question for me or Mr.
I
Stauber?
do have a question for Rob.
All right, last question. Then I'm wrapping
Yeah,
it up like a
yeah,
Christmas
yeah, yeah.
present. Here
No,
we
I know,
go.
I know. Um, we definitely need to do a part two, Rob. And just because it is related to the whole conversation we had, just going back to the Tarasov, Dad, I feel like there was like, besides being a good guy in our household, I feel like it was outliers, talent code, and like Tarasov, like that, just like your kind of philosophy for athletics and just getting better, all these different things. And Rob, you're talking about Tarasov in this podcast. So I know we want to preview for the next episode. You have your business at Goal Crease, and you also build houses and remodel and do certain things like that. So I just kind of in alignment with Tarasov is learning from watching the clocks and different things like that. What have you learned about? Can you just give us maybe a little bit of like a preview on how you got into building houses and how that kind of impacts you with still being in the game and coaching people? You told me when you're at my parents' house, you said that you really love coaching players on the ice still, and like you would run me through some Russian stuff. Like, can you kind of speak into that for a quick summary so we can kind of preview episode 2 with you?
Yeah, hockey provides us with great opportunities, right? And the right environments and the things that we talk about and the things that we're exposed to. And I feel very fortunate to have just had these different experiences that, playing a game and not playing it out of fear, but for the love of the game, and then carrying that over into other aspects of your life. So when I transitioned, whether it was into business, and we can talk about that next time, it'll be absolutely fascinating how that same love of what you're doing, not fear. I mean, there's natural fears, but there is for everybody, no matter what you're in. But are those fears the ones that are driving you, or does the love overtake the fear? And when the love overtakes the fear, you can do anything. And so for me, being involved in real estate and building a house, building my first set of houses, I knew nothing. It's just like Terra stuff. I know nothing, but I'm not fearful. I have enough. We all have enough ability and to think through things and ask questions and lay ourselves out there and learn. And so for me, in different aspects of my life, I just take what I learned in hockey and the joys and the experiences. And hockey shouldn't just be for hockey, but it's to hopefully to carry you through your entire life. The experiences that you have are so valuable. It's just a matter of how do you use those as you move forward, and that's really, for me, it's the way I played the game. Your dad can attest to it. I wasn't very fearful. When your goalie's stick handling a puck in the corner around guys and the net's wide open, and you have no fear, you don't have a lot of fear. And that's just the way I that it's just something that I've grown to. It started when I was young, being around great people, and then just not being fearful, and or not letting that fear, really run your life. It was flipping fear on its ugly nose, and then just applying that in life. And so whether it's building a house, real estate, or other businesses, you get to draw on those past experiences that are really valuable.
Well,
Yeah,
Bremer, thank you
amazing.
for that add on there. I think just we're building a little building structure here that is just awesome messaging. I will also add one little thing. You can hear that's my paper, that's my notes that I have a question for you or that we're going to talk about in episode number 2 as we build for that. We did play college hockey together. I don't know if we went to school together because all I know is that we had one class together. I saw you on the first day. I saw you on the last day. And I was there I rarely missed. And I think I got a C and you got like a B plus. So we'll talk about that later. But Rob, thank you. And Rem, thank you both so much. Why I do this is because I get to the privilege, and so do you with your businesses, Rob. But the goal crease, especially, we get to get in front of so many passionate young people that have big dreams, and we put our shingle out there saying we can help in a certain aspect, in a certain sector. And I think we're both the same, that we empty the tank. Anytime we get in front of someone, we're giving him everything we got, sharing everything. So I just appreciate you coming on the show, sharing your experiences so others can hopefully, get just a sentence, a phrase, a story that connects with them and kind of changes their trajectory in a positive way. So episode number 2, people, is going to be just as good, if not better. But thank you, Rob. Thank you, Ram, for being here. This is the Hockey Journey podcast, and we are wrapping it up. So thanks for being here, Rob. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lance and Rem, and look forward to episode 2.
Well, that concludes another episode of the Hockey Journey podcast. I can't thank you enough for stopping by and listening. I hope you enjoyed hearing part 1 of the hockey journey of Robb Stauber. And what a journey it's been so far. If any of you young hockey hopefuls are looking for a mentor, someone you can learn from, Mr. Stauber is an individual I would highly recommend. Lastly, if you think there's someone in your circle of family and friends that might like this episode as well, please share it with just one person. Come on, each of us have one person we can share something with. It will really help me in growing this hockey community. Again, I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, or submit a review. I hope to see you back here soon, and do me a favor, make someone close to you smile today. All the best, my friends.